Ladies and gentlemen, I have with me once again Mr. Daniel Limones, Technical Director of the Pakistan Football Federation, who's also a UEFA Pro licensed coach. In the past, he's worked with Spanish clubs like Atletico Madrid and Rayo Vallecano. And currently, he's blessed us with his presence in Pakistan and as well as the studio. How are you, Danny?
I'm fine. Thank you for inviting me. As always, it's a pleasure being here always. So let's do it.
Welcome back. How much has changed since the last time? When was the last time you came? September?
I think the end of August, beginning of September, and for me, it's like looking like 3 years or 4 years ago. So the time has
You got
passed.
more white hair.
Yeah, thank you so much.
But I remember at the time you had it was I think late August and you'd become a few months into the job. You had your contract till December 2020, and here we are in December 2020. And recently there's been news that FIFA has extended the mandate of the normalization committee till 30th June 2021. In that last conversation, you talked about a lot of things, and in them you said restarting football activity, grassroots development, local coaches, domestic competition, restarting the national team activity for men's and women's football. And the one thing that you said that stood out was, apart from saying that it's a long and hard process and we'll have to focus on it, and it's not just something that will get done overnight. You also said that the first most important thing is to tell people that the PFF is a clean organization, and at least from a footballing side. And I think it's fair to say that you've managed to do that very successfully. The PFF has a lot of praise now from a lot of people, especially the overall public, in terms of how it's been doing football activity. How pleased are you with what you've done in the last 5-6 months?
It's not pleased. I think it's the regular situation that has had a proper federation. The thing is that the football should be isolated completely for whatever is happening in the offices and with the elections or whatever. Because if football is being affected, the players are going to suffer, the coaches are going to suffer, the referees are going to suffer, everyone is going to suffer. And again, I told you the other day in the interview, they are the main stars of this, and we have to take care of them like if they were our babies. And obviously, if we are not able to isolate football from the rest of the things that are surrounding it, everyone is going to suffer.
Yeah, because this is so we've been doing interviews after the Challenge Cup matches, and we're talk about the Challenge Cup in detail. And one of the when I used to ask players and coaches about how do they feel about the organization that the PFF is doing, after praise, and everyone did praise the PFF, the first thing that they said afterwards was that we just hope that whatever situation they have going on in their administrative and political situations or whatever the capacities, that doesn't affect us. You can do what you do, just let us play football. That has been, if I'm not wrong, your main focus, that whatever happens outside the pitch, on the pitch there's someone kicking a football around.
Exactly. And I think apart from the success that the Challenge Cup has had in all of the matters, our biggest reward has been the smile of the players and the happiness of the players. Even if they have played only 3 matches because they were eliminated in the group stage, they were even happy. So it's our biggest reward, and what the best thing I'm going to take from the Challenge Cup.
And assessing the last time since you came here, a lot has happened since then. It's the B division, the women's national team camp. You went to Gilgit and Hunza for coaching purposes there as well. Then there was a C license coaching course, and then recently there's been the national challenge cup. So a lot to get into. I think that the fact that there's a lot been done is something that is a compliment to the work that you people have been doing at the PFF, because that was exactly your point the last time you came here, that we need to just have as low a gap as possible between football activities.
This is one of the things that we have tried, to have a regular activity regarding football, regarding the social media and everything, because I think right now modern football is working on hype, and if we are not creating that hype on the people, is when football is going to go down again. So it's about not the fans and the people who are following football, the players, the coaches, everyone needs to have something to follow every day regarding football. because if not, cricket is going to eat us again. So it's about creating that regular activity and get the people used to that situation that football is something that is regular. It's not just that the Challenge Cup and then a gap of 4 months and then the PPL and then another gap of 4 months or something like this. So this is why we need the coaching courses. We need the CSR activities that we did in Gilgit, the Challenge Cup, the proper competitions, the international tours if we are able to arrange them. So it's something that is going to create a regular activity throughout the year. That is something that is really important, and it's going to create that standards or standard of performance that the PFF needs.
So speaking of the Challenge Cup, happy?
I'm happy. I told you the other day that I was so tired, and after 1 week or 5 to 10 days after that is when you are taking time to evaluate what has happened and everything. And I'm pretty happy. What I told you at the beginning, that players were happy, so my biggest target was accomplished. But also, I think we have set up a proper standard of competition, 28 teams, even if it is only 22 days, but they have been 58 matches.
It's the largest ever Challenge Cup in Pakistan.
So for us, it was a challenge at the beginning because I was telling the team that we are going to have 26 to 28 teams, and they were like, you are crazy. How we are going to be able to manage this thing? But as soon as the first match was started, everything has gone on a very good routine that everyone was comfortable working. And for us, the biggest success has been the players, seeing the players doing their activity, seeing the referees doing their activity, meeting the coaches that I wanted to meet, like such as Tariq Lutfi, Tanvir Ahmad, these coaches Siddiq Sheikh, exactly, that these coaches that I wanted to really meet and to have a small chit chat with them. And for me, I'm very happy because of the Challenge Cup right now.
And like, honest, what do you think? So obviously everyone's been praising the organization, everything that happened. What do you think as a technical director, because you've had time to evaluate now, what do you think is the honest assessment of the level of organization, management, and the overall tournament that you thought you would organize and the one that was actually organized?
To be honest, before the Challenge Cup, I was waking up the first day when the first match happened, and I was thinking, I'm praying that everything will go in the way that we planned. But I think it has been even better because everything has been in such easy way, because the coaches were helping, the players were helping in the organization regarding the COVID protocols and everything. So for us, or for me, regarding the technical planning that we had for the Challenge Cup, obviously we have made mistakes, and we are going to work to fix those mistakes always, because we are not perfect. I haven't said ever that I'm the perfect person for this. I'm just working. Regarding those things, for us it has been easier than what it was planned, because the stakeholders, they are the stakeholders, the stars of the game, they have been very helpful, and they have helped us to make it even bigger.
Yeah, and especially the surprise was that everything was in a COVID world, and this is very important because it makes things very, very harder. Everything was very smooth in terms of, match timings, officials, players. Like you said, if the people playing the tournament are happy, it means that the tournament was a good tournament, because they were the ones who experienced the organization and the management firsthand. Obviously, there are minor mistakes here and there, and that I think people should not focus on minor mistakes and instead look at the larger picture of, overwhelmingly positive picture, and focusing on minor mistakes does more harm than good. But apart from that, let's just focus a bit on football right now, because I think our last chat was a lot about big picture and organization, and like people might forget that as a technical director, I think this is a funny thing, because usually technical directors are focused a lot on technical and tactical aspects of football and the big picture related to that. But because of the situation of Pakistani football, you were tasked with sort of being the prime minister of Pakistani football, in the sense that you had to take care of everything, introduce processes and systems and all that. But on just a footballing level, what did you think about the level of teams, the level of football, the level of players?
I think we have such variety of teams in Pakistan. We have seen 28 absolutely different teams that they were playing absolutely differently.
All of them?
All of them. That obviously there are some teams that were playing in a similar way. I would say both extremes, like for example KU, Karachi United, and POPO. They were trying to keep the ball, and there were other examples that they were like playing more directly and looking after the first and the second ball. But that this variety for me when there is variety, there is happiness for me. Like you can use such a different players. I was always thinking about the national team and thinking about creating a national team, and we have a lot of tools and a lot of different players that are used to play in different ways. That whenever we are going to be inside a competition, we are going to have these variants inside the game that are going to be so helpful depending how the match is going. So I'm pleased because the POPO way of playing, but also the Army way of playing, because I have been so surprised with Army, for example, or WAP, that they could manage to change the way of playing during the tournament. At the beginning of the tournament, they were playing more directly and introducing those two midfielders, number 6 and number 15.
What a player.
I'm very bad with the names still. So
yeah, that guy.
They changed a little bit. They were able to press high to KU. They were able to press high to KRL, I think it was. So it's
and SF.
Exactly. So they were able to change the way they were playing or they were defending during the tournament. That it's something that is looking like WAP that has been a chameleonic team that were able to play in one way, and then suddenly they changed their behavior in the knockout stage. So it's something that for me is something that is pleasant because it shows the level of the coaches actually.
Yeah. Do you bring up a good point that you've got players who can play for the WAPDA, so the KU way, the POPO way, possession football, and then there's the people who are used to playing a different way. They've got those strengths. I am surprised to hear you say that you believe that this sort of variety can help. I would think that there's sort of a base level of certain technical and tactical aspects which modern football has. There's certain blueprints that you need to follow, and then variety comes on top of that. Do you think those certain base level technical tactical principles are missing because the game is constantly evolved, but Pakistani football has technically, tactically, and also but I'm just talking about technically, not evolved in my opinion.
How I understand football is again the players are the stars of this, and you cannot try to play in one way if you don't have the players to play in that way. So obviously the variety that we have is going to be good on the national team depending on the education that those players have had during their grassroots and their youth development. Because if they have been raised up playing in one way only, it's going to be tough for them to try to give them or deliver onto them the other way of playing. So obviously it is going to depend on that, but I'm pretty sure that the players are going to be keen to learn, because talking to some of them, and also in the coaching courses we had Saddam Hussein and we had Salah Abdullah, and they were very keen to learn, and they were trying to be a proper coach. Even they have the mindset of a player, and in some way they are thinking on the player way. They were trying to learn, and they were trying to look after both sides of football, the direct and the not direct playing. So it's something that is giving us richness. I think it's going to give us richness.
No, so allow me to clarify. I don't mean whether to play like Barcelona positional football or whether to go a bit longer and do all of that. I just meant in terms of certain. And this is related to your point about grassroots and whether they've had the proper education, whether just basic principles like width and depth, coaching points, those sort of things are, I think they're a bit missing in like certain aspects of Pakistani football, where they've been doing the same thing, and I'm not sure they even know why they're doing it. They might be very good at it, but they're not exactly. They haven't been explained why they're doing it.
Maybe.
and that sort of important principles of understanding or why you're doing certain things is missing.
Maybe, but for me, football is a game of behaviors. Like obviously the technical aspect should be there because it's the basement of everything. The technical skills are the basement of everything. But regarding the tactical things, it's about behaviors and getting the players used to do something with a reason. So this is the main thing, the why they are doing that. And we had the best example with the women's training camp because the players maybe were not that used to receive that big amount of information during the training sessions, and the first day or the second day, even the third day, they were a bit confused and everything was messy. And but after the third day, we played the friendly match, and then on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, everything was working in such a good way that if you compare the team on the first day that we played a match on Monday and the match we played on Sunday against an under-16 men's team, the team was absolutely different.
I was there.
So it's about creating those behaviors in the players. It's about convincing them that there are different ways of playing football, that no one is a bad way, that this is the way we want to do it, and this is the way that they should try to do it, and always make them feel comfortable that if they are making a mistake, it's always it's going to be always my mistake. And I think it's the biggest achievement I have had with the women's team, that I convince them that if they are trying what I'm asking from them and they are is a failure or they are failing, it's going to be my mistake, not their mistake. So it's about
this is what people like Guardiola did, right? So because in international football, it's not just pressure of the mistake internally, it's also the press and everyone else. So these coaches, as you know very well, what they told Victor Valdez and PK and Puyol were like, you do whatever. If anyone says anything, if you miss a mistake, it's on me. But if you do it well, it's on you. So I think that's the sort of thing. But the women's national team example is really good because I experienced it when we were covering, on the mic was covering it. And it was a great example of how the right education in such a short, when you hit the right notes with the players and the players understand why they're doing certain things, it leads to a change in behavior instantly. And basically that sort of, I think would have given you hope, if I'm not wrong, that even with the men's football, when you translate the right sort of ideas, you can change those behaviors to your desired outcome really quickly.
It's convincing the players. It's not imposing my idea. It's not or the coach shouldn't impose the idea that I want to play like this and this is how it is going to be. No, it's about we are going to do this. We are going to try this. And maybe it's not going to work in the training session. So this is why we have the best tool for that coach is the training session. On a match, the influence that we have in a match is maybe 10%, 50%, because the players should be used to those behaviors that you are working on the training sessions, and this is why the training session is the best tool for a coach. So this is why we are looking after, or we are trying to have a regular system that the players are going to be on a training session basis for a long time, not just before the Challenge Cup or before the PPL or before the Women's Championship. They need a regular system. So like this, the players are going to work on those behaviors, or the coaches are going to work on those behaviors that are going to be shown on the matches or whatever they want to do.
Yeah. Just before we come on to the women's national team camp and the coaching aspect, local coaching aspect, because that is linked to this entire discussion of convincing players why, or telling them what's what, because that's a coach's job to do, and if you have not got enough local coaches of a certain level, then that's not happening. But before that, this is what you've said is interesting. I just want to ask you one thing. As technical director, do you want to see a certain style of play or certain principles of play on the Pakistani national football? Let me rephrase it. Is there a certain footballing identity you want to see from Pakistan?
Obviously, I have a way of playing or a game model that I have in my mind that is the way I like and that I have tried to do on all the teams I have been working.
What is that? Just to elaborate on layman terms.
For me, the ball is the best tool to have the control of the game, of the match, but also the spaces. So whenever you don't have the ball, you have to try to use the spaces in such way that the other team is not going to be able to put you in danger or something
So
like
you
this.
decide where they play.
Exactly. So it's about being the star whenever you have the ball, but also make the other team to feel that you are the star also when they have the ball. So it's about being or having that importance in the development of the game, that even when the other team has the ball, they are going to feel harassed in some way, that they are going to have always a player from my team biting them or on them, that or pressing them. That is going to happen always. So it's about having the control of the game in such way that whenever we are going to have the ball, we are going to use it in the way that we are going to be always looking to score a goal, but there is going to be always it's going to be happening always that we are going to lose the ball,
And then
the players should be ready to make the other team to feel harassed. So for me, it's kind of rock and roll football game that is similar.
That's the team that you...
maybe it's that the idea, but not maybe on Liverpool. I loved Jurgen Klopp when he was in Borussia Dortmund, but because
that was proper rock and roll.
It was
now
proper rock and roll, exactly, and it was the idea of the building up was maybe more horizontal and not that vertical that he's playing on Liverpool right now. But it's kind of this idea, that rock and roll football.
Yeah, but interesting enough is Borussia Dortmund team didn't focus that much on like keeping possession, circulating possession constantly, because his idea was, as you've said, he in his mind, in his game model, it was that we're probably the most dangerous when we lose the ball around the opposition's box.
But this is exactly the thing I'm feeling the last 12 years or 15 years, because I have realized that the team that or the moment that the team is more vulnerable is whenever they are starting to have the ball.
Yeah, just when they get the ball.
Because
That's
they are feeling
press.
comfortable and they are thinking, okay, we are going to attack, let's do this thing, this movement, and this is when you can hurt them the most.
Yeah, and statistically as well, most goals are scored within 7 seconds of winning the ball back.
Exactly.
And now you see this, it's an interesting rise. And I know this is a chat slightly away from Pakistani football. It's an interesting rise. You see that people from this German school of thought, like Klopp, like Nagelsmann, like Jesse March, who's now come in, Marco Rosa, and all of these people are sort of on the rise. And Spanish football or Spanish coaches who were previously focused on more possession and less verticality and all of that and transitions, they're a bit struggling right now. But one interesting example, it swings both way. One example from the German side, German school of thought who's not adapted, is Joachim Löw. He's been towards the Spanish school of thought, and the other is Luis Enrique.
Yeah,
and you're a big fan of Luis.
Exactly.
So am I right in saying that the Spanish current national team is the sort of team that you would like because it's vertical?
Obviously, we have to adapt everything to the national scenario that we have here or in the national environment. But the idea is give the people who are going to watch a Pakistan national team match something to enjoy the match. Like it's not that we are going to be playing the ball and it's going to be kind of boring or whatever. It's like they are going to have activity. They are going to have proper activity and they are going to enjoy watching the match.
And just on the Challenge Cup, surprises. I know there's POPO, but like talk about that for a bit and then other ones.
POPO has been a surprise for everyone because they were so young. The eldest guy was 20 years old and they have been playing like they were 34 or 35 with that sort of experience. But I have, to be honest, I have been following POPO on the social media, and I thought that they were going to do something in this way because Cesar Anwar, the coach, has been working for so long with them, but not in that level. For me, obviously, it has been a big surprise, but I was expecting this way of playing, this idea, this professionalism regarding everything that they were doing, but the level they have achieved and they have reached has surprised everyone and to me as well. So it can be the biggest surprise. As I have told you, I was thinking that Wabda was going to be out in the group stage because of the first 2 matches, but suddenly they changed everything, and Tanvir changed everything. The lineup, not the lineup. He introduced the 2 midfielders that they have won. For me, they have won the championship.
Number 6 especially. Yeah.
Number 6 and number 15. Yeah. Let's give the number 15 the credits as well, but. There have been a lot of surprises. Also, the Hazara Coal Company, they have surprised me pretty much because of the way they were thinking about football and how they were defending with all of their energy till the last minute. Army, again, I didn't see Army in the past. And
What did it surprise you about Army?
Army for me was not a group of, or they didn't have a star or a player that you can say, oh, this player is amazing, but they were playing as a unit. They were moving or going everywhere as a unit. Like, let's go there. We are going to press there, but the whole team is going to be there. Or we are going to try to play or to make a build-up, but everyone is going to take the responsibility in that building up. So it's for me, Army has been hard. They were playing like a heart moving, and they were doing everything that they were doing was coming from the heart, and it was for me was even exciting to see the level of confidence and the level of coordination they had between the players.
Nice. And now, before the Challenge Cup, you also had the women's national team camp that we just talked about a bit. And obviously, there have been a lot of media coverage and social media coverage about the experience and the players, and everyone was really happy. What did you going into that want? What is the what are the one or two things that you going into that wanted to change to make sure that their experience was different from all the previous national team games?
The biggest thing I think was to set up the standards of accommodation first of all, because they are players. They shouldn't be treated or mistreated in that way. But not only the men's should be having the same standards of accommodation and boarding and lodging, etc. And also maybe obviously I'm a different coach than any other coach, so I was trying to give my best to the players to make them feel that they are the real stars of this, that I was just a part of the environment, and I was trying to give them some guidelines or how to do the things or explain them how to do the things. But I think at the end of the training camp, they were feeling that they were the stars. Even me being a foreigner, I was not trying to get being the star of that. The real target of that it was to open the door to the girls, to the players, and secondly to show them that football is made by them and for them. So there is no other way to understand football in that way.
So what's the pathway for the women's national team in 2021 and beyond? What are you thinking?
Actually, it's the beautiful thing is that according to AFC, right now there are more international competitions for women's than for men's in 2021, because it should be an under 17, an under 20, and the women's Asian Cup. The qualifying round is going to happen in 2021 if our friend COVID is allowing us to do it. And for men's, we have the under 23, we have the SAF Championship, and maybe the SAF Games that are going to happen in December here in Pakistan. So
here in Pakistan,
inshallah. So hopefully there for the international scene of Pakistani football right now, where there is a beautiful environment right now that we have to start working on those teams, because obviously we have to not to have a good performance, but we have to start building up the proper environment for the teams, etc. So yeah, we are working. There is a FIFA window in Feb for women's. There is a FIFA window in March for men's. So we are working at the same time that we are working in the women's championship, and we are working in the future PPL. We are trying to get an opponent or 2 fixtures per team on those windows.
Okay, so it's safe in saying that if its situation stays the same, we might see national team men's and women's activity happening in a couple of months.
Hopefully, yes, but I don't know why whenever we are calling another member association, we are facing some hurdles because they don't want to play against us. But it's something that is going to be fixed in the coming months.
They don't want to play us for footballing reasons? Or?
Yeah, I think footballing reasons. I think, but this
are we that good?
This is because we are that good. Yeah.
So men's national team now, we've already talked about the windows and everything, the plans for 2021, but you've obviously now watched the B division as technical director. You've also watched the Challenge Cup, which was 28 teams, a lot of players. So men's national team now, we've already talked about the plans for the windows in 2021, but you obviously watched a lot of domestic football, the B division, Challenge Cup, a lot of players, a lot of teams. I used to see you in the stadium sitting up top, taking notes, analyzing the games. So what's been your takeaway analyzing domestic players in terms of, the men's national team?
Again, we have a big pool of players that they can be called for the national team, because there are a lot of players who are in the same level of competitiveness and the same level of intensity and the way they are understanding football, maybe. But obviously we have to take care of, look after these players. We have to understand that there are players who are playing abroad, that they have Pakistani origin, that they are going to be...
Are you going to contact them?
We are in contact with them, and they are going to be an extra thing for the national team that we have to, maybe we need right now. Maybe in the future we are not going to need those players, but right now we need that extra thing that those players are going to bring us, because they are playing Europa League, they are playing Champions League. So obviously the level of competition they have in a regular basis is better than the one we have. But the good thing is that we have young players who are in a very good level. Again, talking about POPO, I can see 1 or 2 players from that team being under 20 playing in the national team without any problem. And also there are senior players. I don't want to call Saddam Hussein senior player because he's 28 or 27, but those more experienced players that are going to give us that extra experience in football, that is going to create that balance between the young players and the more experienced players.
Have you decided, like, is there a sort of a filter you've put in that okay, these are the players I'm considering right now?
Obviously, after the Challenge Cup, there is a lot of office work that we have to do. We have to complete the report for AFC and for FIFA, and obviously after all of this office work, we are going to try to create a proper pool or batch of players that
a short list.
Kind of 50 to 60 players that are going to be okay, or that they have the level to be on the...
And then you're going to decide how many from them?
These questions are tricky.
No, I just meant a large number.
What we had in the past, in the last women's training camp, it was 30 players. So my idea is, if there is no competition right after that training camp, is going to be the same idea. But for me, a training camp shouldn't be just for preparing for a competition. It should be a regular thing. And we discussed in the first interview we had that we have to create that system with the national teams, that they are going to gather even if there is no competition in front of us.
Like it happens abroad.
Because like this, the players are going to get used to play together, and they are going to get used to the idea that we are trying, or the behaviors. We were talking about behaviors, the behaviors we want to deliver to it, and we want to convince them to have. So obviously, for me, a training session with more of 30 players or 30 players, I would say 30 players, is kind of something that is becoming something not useful, because the time or the efficiency that the players are going to get in contact with the ball. Like the idea we have is that the players should be in contact with the ball the match as much time as they can. So obviously, if you have 40 players, it's going to be more difficult, because they are more fit to touch the ball. So it's something that is like something like this. So 30 players for me is the best. Maybe 25 is the best amount of players, but we are going to think about 30 always.
And the point that you raised about having regular training camps and not just for competitions, how does that process, like, when are you starting to think about that?
Again, after all the office work that we have for the Challenge Cup, we will start thinking about the proper way for the national team. So
what does that look like? So just off the top of your head, it looks like something where the national team trains after every
the good thing is that the FIFA windows are happening regularly during the year. Like every 2 months or every 3 months there is a FIFA window. So the idea is to gather the team to play in that FIFA window. So spend 10 to 15 days together to play a friendly match in that, or 2 friendly matches in those FIFA windows, because it's the only way, first of all, that we are going to climb up in the FIFA ranking is the first point, and secondly is when the players are going to feel that they are properly a national team player. Because if we are only gathering the team once every 2 years or once per year, I think they are going to feel that they are national team players, but there is not that regular feeling that I'm going to for a training camp with the national team
routine,
every 2 months or every 3 months or like this. They are going to feel that also being part of the national team is a big achievement.
Great. So speaking of the C license coach, the AFCC license coaching course that you conducted? When was it?
It was September.
It was September. So after I think the last conversation we had, that was the first thing that you did. Obviously the response was pretty good and everyone enjoyed it. I just wanted to ask you, how can we increase, since this was a big topic of conversation the last time we had a chat, how can we increase the number of local coaches? And I don't just mean that in the sense that we should have a high number of coaches. I meant, how can we attract young people in their 20s, in their 30s, who are football fans to become coaches in Pakistan?
First thing, they have to have the desire to be a coach. They have to like football, and they have to have that will to learn. And one of the good things that we have realized in the coaching courses was that amongst those 61 people who have gone through the coaching course, I could say all of them, they have that love for football, that it was an absolutely requirement for being part of that. But also, I think the best or the biggest thing we should do is opening the coaching course to everyone. It has to be fair, not just only being part of a department or a club. It is going to give you the chance of being part of a coaching course. Everyone needs to have the chance of get that education if they want to get education, not just getting the certificate for the CV. If they are really interested in being a coach, they should get that chance to get the certificate. So I think the best thing we can do for increasing the number of coaches is making it open to everyone.
Right. And you obviously were taking those coaching courses. What did you think about the level of applicants that had come there? Did you see the sort of, the sort of talent pool or applicant pool that you would want to see in the local coaches of Pakistan?
We had both extremes of the setup. Like there were coaches who have been working in the past with teams, with academies, etc. And there were some coaches who had never had a contact with a team, and the practical work we had on the ground, it was the first experience addressing to a group of people and to share their knowledge or whatever. But in both extremes, I think overall the level was pretty good. I was very good surprise about the level of the coaches, because it's not just that they had a lot of knowledge, it was also the way they were delivering that knowledge in the practical work, and how they were trying to explain the concepts and those things. And even we haven't been focused too much on the technical aspect of football in the coaching course, because for us, the first thing that the C certificate is something that is addressed to be working with the grassroots and with the kids. So obviously there should be an extra thing on the behavior, on the how you are dealing with the kids and everything. So it was the coaching course was more focused on the safeguarding and how to deal with kids and how to address a kids and how to convince a kid to do something, more than the technical aspect, because obviously in the grassroots we have to provide them the tools, the basic tools, and this is the technical skills, etc. So it doesn't require that tactical knowledge at the beginning to be a coach working with grassroots.
And after that they've done, after a coach has done the C license coach, what is their, just for people who are listening, what is that person's level as a coach? Can they coach a youth club in Pakistan? Or
right now they can coach whatever they want, because there is no proper regulation on the certificates. Obviously in the Challenge Cup and the PPL and the B League there is a regulation that is saying that it should be at least B license. But in the rest of the amateur clubs and everything, first of all, some of them they don't have a certificate coach, and obviously having the C certificate is a plus to find a job in that regard. But the way we deliver the C coaching course, it was everything addressed to the grassroots and the youth level, because we have to create that pool of coaches that are going to be working only in the grassroots and the youth, and they need to be even more educated than the coaches who are in the top levels, because obviously they are going to be the hand makers of those kids who are going to be reaching to the top tier. So for me it's even more important the coaches who are in the basement or in the grassroots than maybe the coaches who are in in the top.
So for aspiring coaches who are listening to this, what do you think is what's the pathway that you would describe to them? So first they do a C license, then they start coaching some youth academy or some place, and then when the time comes, they have enough experience to do the B license. Is that how it works?
It is how it works officially, and it is how it should be. But for me, obviously, officially, the first requirement is to get the paper that is saying that you are a certified coach. But secondly, I think is trying to get the much experience that you can, because becoming a good or a bad coach is going to come from the experience and the way you are. Because obviously, at the beginning, you are going to make a lot of mistakes. You are going to try things that are not going to work, and you are going to try to, a technical circuit, and you are seeing that the kids are not having fun. So maybe you should go to the other way, that the kids are going to be more involved in the action. So. For me, being a coach is based on the experience, but not in the experience of a long time. It's based on the experience of the frequent or regular basis. Not I have been a coach for 25 years, I'm better than you. No, it's I have been coaching, and I have been trying things, and I have been failing, and I have been fixing those failures, and this is how experience you are getting that experience.
Right. And one important thing that you mentioned on our last conversation was that we need to empower coaches. How will that, because that I think is separate from just having coaching courses. What's your view on that?
I think we have had the best example with the interviews we have had with the coaches during the Challenge Cup, but we were giving them putting them in the light spot and giving them their importance and having interviews with them, talking only about football, not talking about the experience of the Challenge Cup, because we have had interviews with Lutfi, we have had experience with Tanvir, that they were talking just and only about football. So this is one of the ways that we can empower coaches in that way. We have to find a way that the coaches are going to get better paid for the job that they are doing, because we cannot forget that they are teachers of kids, and some of them they are not getting the proper salary for the big task that they are doing. Because for us it's just I'm thinking in a parent in a father way, like I'm bringing my kid here, I'm going to go do whatever I have to do, but we are forgetting that the person you are giving your kid should be responsible of everything that is happening during that hour or that hour and a half. So for me, coaches in the grassroots, they have a very, very big responsibility, and they are not getting paid here in Spain and wherever. They are not getting paid in the proper way.
Yeah, and that's one of the important ways to convince young footballing minds of Pakistan who you ideally, and everyone who's interested in Pakistani football would want to convince them to come and become coaches, because you need the best minds. And that's something that you talked about just a while ago, about how the grassroots coaches need to be even more secure in their principles and their learning than the other ones, because they're going to influence the future generation. Just before we talk about the future generation, what's the timeline for future coaching courses, if any people are listening who want to apply for them?
The thing is that we are very busy in a lot of things, and obviously if we are trying to handle a lot of things at the same time, due to the human resources that we have right now, it's going to be impossible, and we are going to be failing in all of the targets that we have. So it's not about saying that I'm going to build a wall tomorrow. I'm going to be placing one brick every day. I'm going to do this thing every day. So this is how a wall is built. So the idea is, for example, we are in contact with the AFC to have a goalkeeping coach here in Pakistan, that I think has not happened in the past 10 years. We are going to have a fitness coach level 1 here in Pakistan as well. I think it's going to be in April, but I'm not sure about the dates right now, because obviously everything is the dates in my mind are a bit messy. But also we need another batch of C license. We need it, and we are working to get the B license here in Pakistan officially, that a Pakistani instructor is going to be able to deliver the B license here. That is something for me is huge, because it's the first step to get the A license in Pakistan and to get the Pro license in Pakistan. So we are working on that, but obviously we are working in a lot of fronts, so everything requires time.
That's great. That's really good news. And lastly, just talking to you about the future generation, because coaching is obviously linked to that grassroots. Last time you placed a lot of emphasis on grassroots development and how no footballing nation can succeed, rightly so, without having a strong grassroots situation. Are you looking as technical director to promote and implement certain consistent footballing principles throughout the age groups like we see abroad? So the national team has a certain profile. I'm not talking tactically, I'm talking in terms of certain ideas or at certain education points that are consistent across the board that you want to see on a national level.
But for that, we need a proper system of academies. We need a proper regular basis of a training session or a training regular basis, and something that obviously it requires a lot of time. But with kids and with the grassroots and with the youth, it's easier to implement those behaviors because their mind are easier to handle and are easier to...
They're blank slates, basically.
But even if they have a behavior, it's easier to correct or to modify that behavior than with the eldest players. But in that way, it's not about limiting the creativity of the coaches in the academies, because like this we are going to be limiting the coaches, and coaches should be free to do whatever they want to do and they want to implement. But maybe the way that they are delivering the training sessions and they are conducting the training sessions, it can be modified in some cases to get the kids the biggest number of contacts with the ball during the training session, because it's how the players are learning to be that relationship with the ball. If they are just in a line of 10 players waiting for being in contact with the ball 10 seconds after 1 minute and a half of waiting, obviously, first of all, they are going to hate football and they are going to start dropping down. And secondly, the development that they are going to have during their experience as grassroots or on the grassroots or the youth is going to be different than a player who is in contact with the ball every day and he is having contact with the ball during the whole training session 1 hour and a half.
My very limited experience with the Pakistani youth football scene has been that even places that have regular training sessions and kids are coming, the problem is that the training sessions are not fun for children precisely because they're not touching the ball. It's not something that even a football... So you would know better than most people that as a kid who comes to play football or train, basically, he's not thinking of it in terms of training that he wants to, think of a certain tactical idea or certain technical point. He's there to play football, right? Have fun. And the moment that the training session stops being fun for a kid, either they start dropping out, like you said, or they start saying that we don't want to train, just let us play matches.
Exactly.
And that is what is happening across the board in Pakistan, that most academies just have matches because otherwise their kids aren't happy.
Kids are going to complain.
And they think that it's because kids aren't happy with training. What they get wrong is kids aren't happy with the way they're training. And that's the important thing that we need to get right. So you made a point that we need to involve more kids, right, in grassroots football. But it's not just that. We need to involve more kids and get them with the proper coaches who make sure that those kids stay involved.
This is why I have been telling to you or to everyone since the beginning that we have to increase the number of coaches that we have, the certified coaches or the educated coaches that we have in Pakistan. Because when we reached to PFF, there were 350 certified coaches, something like this. Now we are 420, so we have increased a little bit the number. But obviously, it's a country of 200 million. It's the 200 million people. So it's the thing I'm always saying, that maybe if we are making the ratio of players for a coach is 500,000 players for one coach. So obviously, it's hard to manage. So the thing is that obviously we have to increase the batch or the pool of coaches that are going to be certified, and we can trust that they are certified and they have got the proper education to deal with a kid or a group of kids. But obviously it's about not changing the mindset, because it's a big word, but to adapt the things that we are doing to engage more kids. And because if the players are having fun in the training session, whenever they are going to the school the day after, they are going to, yesterday in the training session I had a lot of fun. And maybe there is a player who has not played football ever in his life, and he's going to say, okay, I'm going to try. Yeah. So instead of having 16, you're going to have 18 the day after. So it's something that is creating with the hype. I have told you at the beginning that we have to create that hype in the kids and in everyone who is interested in football, that football is a good thing to for their development. We have to show that the coaches are properly educated and they are ready to handle a proper training session. That like this, the kids are not going there to play football or to play a match, because again, playing a match is a good thing because it's the way that all the tactical, technical, physical, and everything is involved in the match. But it's not the only way. It's not the only way. And for me, training sessions, instead of being a punishment or something that is the player is going to feel lazy to go. Again, I want to bring up the example of the training camp. It was 8:30 in the morning. The girls were coming to have breakfast. But at the moment that we should leave for the ground, everyone was knowing that they were going to have fun. They were not there to run around the ground and they are going to have a lot of physical effort and whatever. They were doing it but we were doing it with the ball, so they were understanding that it's going to be through fun how they are going to learn the behaviors that we were going to implement.
Right. And I know you've constantly talked about how busy the schedule is and how busy you are, and obviously currently, right, as we sit here right now, you are only technically in the job till maximum June at the moment. May that change, hopefully. But I just want to say that the point I'm trying to make is that the things that you want to change, such as having a youth competition, involving more kids in football, and this is something you also talked about last time, that we need domestic competitions for the youth, because competition is something that increases the standard of football. Am I right in saying that right now, because of the huge amount of things on your agenda in the near future, these are sort of things that are long term and won't be gotten to like in the next few months?
I can say that is something that is for the long term, not only because of the agenda, it's because of it is grassroots and it is youth. And if we are not very accurate with these things, is when there is going to be a generation that is going to be wasted. So
like so many generations.
What we want to do is the first generation who is going to take that profit of the regular basis system or the competition system, even if it's locally, and then we are growing up for a provincial wise and then national wise, that first generation should be taking the 100% of the system or the things that we are implementing. It cannot be the 60% and then the next generation is going to get the 100%. So it's something that we are trying to plant a tree that maybe we are not going to get the shade for that tree, but it's something that is for the long term. And even if officially or publicly nothing is happening in that regard, there is 2 hours or 3 hours on a day that we are working on the grassroots and the youth currently. That is something obviously takes time. We need more human resources. We need to get involved the province football associations to help us to conduct the proper competitions in the provinces, or even the district football associations in that regard. But obviously all of these bodies right now, they are focused on another matter that for us is different than football, and is something that is going to be tough to implement right now because we need a long-term plan and we need them to get them on board in timely and also in the good way.
Right, and because this is very important, I talked to Taha, POPO FC's captain, and he mentioned some very important thing. He was like, at a certain point, at let's say 15, 16, the kids here are really talented, and we give almost any team we go abroad a game. Like when we go up against any team abroad, we give them a game. The gap starts increasing as the age group starts increasing because we don't get regular youth football. He was like, I now played in the Challenge Cup. Before that, my last proper competition was more than a year ago. Like this entire year is wasted basically, where other countries you have youth players constantly playing, training and all of that. That's basically what you're trying to say, that we need to minimize that and plant a tree so that even when you're not here, for example, the system is such that they keep playing, and I hope that happens.
But sure. The same example it can be that imagine we are playing an under 16 or under 19 Asian Cup. Our players have not played an official competition ever in their life. Well, we have the example of POPO, but obviously the whole team is not going to be POPO. But if we are calling a kid from Karachi or wherever, he has not played any official competition in his life. And the first official match he's going to play is going to be a qualifying round match in the Asian Cup.
Yeah. And you expect him to do something.
Exactly, and you are going to push him to not to feel the pressure and not to be afraid and not to be scared of playing against a Bangladeshi guy who has played this thing, or I want at China. Imagine we are playing against China, so it's going to be something that is impossible. So this is why we need that proper system. Instead of being focused on the when it's going to be the PPL, when it's going to be the National Challenge Cup, we have to be focused on when are you going to have a competition in Sindh, when are you going to have a competition in Balochistan, when are you going to have a competition in Punjab, rather than give me the Challenge Cup, give me the PPL, give me everything. The kids are going to be the ones who are going to bring the future and the success to Pakistan right now, and maybe the one who is going to be the star of all of this system has not been born yet. So this is why this is something that is a long-term plan.
You're not going to like my next question.
Shoot.
When is the PPL happening?
Hopefully things go well. I really wish to have the PPL starting in March, but also we have Ramadan that is starting in the mid of April, so it's something that we have to manage the cultural aspect and the footballing aspect. So it's something that we have to find the balance to mix both aspects. So it's something that we are working on that. Again, we are working on that, but it's something that we don't want to use the PPL as a pilot project. Maybe this Challenge Cup has been a pilot project because of the number of teams or etc. But the PPL is the main or the highest tier competition. So we have to be very careful with that, because it's what the people from people abroad is going to get from Pakistan, the PPL. So we have to be very careful.
If they want to check out Pakistani football, that's what they're going to see.
Exactly, and we have created that hype with the Challenge Cup, because I have had friends that I haven't spoken with them in the last 10 years, and they were asking me about the Challenge Cup, and because they were following on my coach, and I was like, what is happening here? So it's something that we have to be very careful right now, because we are growing up, but we shouldn't be growing up in
too
that
fast.
Exactly, in a way that we are not going to be able to handle the way we are growing up.
Right. Danny Limones, it's always a pleasure talking to you on this podcast. The last time that you came, I prayed to God that you would be given more time on the job. He listened. I'm just
praying,
going to
please.
do that again.
Keep praying.
That we have another meeting 3 or 4 months down the line, and we have some more good news. I can safely say that if the same cycle continues after our last conversation of Pakistani football, we're going to be in a much, much better position come June or July. Thank you so much for taking out the time. Thank you so much for listening. It's been an absolute pleasure. Take it easy.